Hi there, everyone. It is currently the evening of the 27th of September 2011, approximately 2000 Philippine Standard Time. That's about 12 Zulu for those of you worldwide watching this update right now. And we have a very active day out here in the Western Pacific. We continue to watch Typhoon Nesat here, or Pedring here, moving offshore from the Philippines right now, but also we have a newly developed tropical depression 22W northwest of the Marianas here, drifting slowly off towards the west right now. And also off screen here towards the west over Vietnam, we had a tropical depression make landfall earlier today across that country. So we're going to try to dive into all three of these areas here, but the bulk of this update is going to be here on Typhoon Nesat that slammed the Philippines earlier today, causing an extensive amount of damage. It is currently moving offshore, but it did make landfall earlier this morning about 0700 Philippine Standard Time right near Aurora and Isabela. As of right now, though, there has been upwards of 8 reports of deaths out there, and I would not be surprised if this number does continue to climb. There has been widespread reports of flooding, landslides, and mudslides across northern Luzon here as well. There's actually a town called, or the province of Catanduanes there, right outside of Albay. There was a landslide that isolated about 3 towns in that region. Also, rail and flight operations are closed across much of Luzon there, and one of the main things, though, is outside of Manila Bay, there was a pretty significant storm surge that came on shore in the metro Manila area, and that was one thing that we kind of overlooked, is the fact that as this system moved on shore, a lot of the storm surge was going to take place up here around northeastern Luzon, but you always forget about this wraparound effect and that wind coming in from the west that pushes that fetch area across from the west towards the east, and especially here in Manila, you might get a storm surge just due from those westerly winds pushing that water across Manila Bay and onto the metro Manila area. And this is actually here on Rojas Boulevard, showing that immense storm surge coming on shore. So really good capture here, just displaying the mere force coming on shore here from this storm surge in this rather tranquil bay that it typically is. But with this strong winds and these heavy surge coming out of this system, it can change a situation like this into a very deadly storm. This is actually one of those reasons why you always say acknowledge those advisories and evacuation orders put out by the agencies, because it always can be a very dangerous situation. But as for right now, though, we're continuing to see high winds out here. Actually, I just saw a report out of Subic Bay, still seeing tropical storm strength winds there, and you're continuing to see the wraparound effect and inflow coming in from the south, producing heavy precipitation across the Philippines. So not out of the woods at any margin right now. You're still continuing to see heavy rain showers, and this is continuing to produce the potential for mudslides across, and also those heavy floods that could be seen expected in the low-lying valleys and watershed areas, and those mudslides likely up here along northern Luzon and the steeper slopes in the mountain ranges. So we're going to continue to watch Typhoon Nesat here as it tracks off towards the west, and in the long range, though, as it moves away from the Philippines, it will encounter some moderate vertical wind shear. Actually showing this on the wind shear chart, you do see about 20 knots out ahead of this, but it also is going to be seeing about 5 to 10 knots along the northern periphery. So these are going to kind of encounter each other, and it's going to maintain this weak typhoon intensity as it moves off towards the west. So good news is that southeastern China will not likely see an intensifying typhoon. Also across this region, you do have high sea surface temperatures, so that's going to continue to feed into the system and allow it to maintain all that moisture. So this in the long range is likely going to bring another drencher here towards Vietnam, as they have been continuing to see monsoonal flow, plus the Tropical Depression Haitang that just made landfall there, and now another system coming on shore. So really across Vietnam, they do not need any rainfall, especially in the dosage that this storm likely will bring, because there has been many reports of deaths across the region and continuous flooding, even in some places more so than what you have been seeing out there in the Philippines. But this likely is going to continue to track on this westerly track. I know some people up here in Hong Kong are a little bit worried about a recurvature scenario where this would track up towards that region, but given the high pressure aloft up here towards the north, it seems highly unlikely that it would curve up towards Hong Kong. It might see a landfall here along northern Hainan here, but overall, though, it likely is going to continue to track off here and make another landfall over Vietnam. And this is just another look at what I'm talking about here, just showing that overall precipitation in the center of the circulation moving towards Vietnam if you direct yourself down here towards this location. But another thing I do want to note is for the viewers in Hong Kong, you still could see some of these outer rain bands moving onshore that could produce high winds at times and especially heavy rain showers. But those high winds also could be increased in some of the funneling areas in the Victoria's Harbor and also in between the high-rise buildings across Hong Kong. So just do want to mention that as well. You could see some gusty winds upwards of tropical storm strength at times, but you're not going to see those sustained winds that you would see with the typhoon making landfall indirectly. So that is a look at Nesat. Now, how about this new tropical depression, Tropical Depression 22W? It's located approximately 600 miles southeast of Okinawa here, moving slowly off towards the northwest. Right now, very disorganized, seeing a lot of wind shear along the northern periphery. And this should slow its intensity and its overall development here over the next 24 to 48 hours. As you can see on this wind shear chart, about 20 to 30 knots here, and that is very not conducive for development. You should usually need about 15 knots or lower for a system to get overall development out of it. But this trough of low pressure is expected to move off towards the northeast, give way to a high pressure aloft, and allow this system to continue to intensify over the next 96 hours as it starts to drift slowly off towards the west along the southern periphery of the subtropical ridge located up here towards the north, and basically follow this whole monsoonal trough, including the typhoon and the tropical depression that made landfall over Vietnam here. It wants to follow in that low pressure path, so it's likely going to head out here towards northern Luzon, sadly, yet again, possibly the Luzon Strait, hopefully missing this landmass, but overall it does expect to continue off in a westerly direction following that monsoonal flow. And to better demonstrate that whole monsoonal flow here with all the tropical systems embedded in it, you kind of look at the surface analysis and you can see that you have the tropical system here, here, and here. And this also extends all the way out here towards Indochina, all with that flow. You do have the high pressure up here towards the more north, a stationary boundary kind of lingering within the high pressure here. There's a little slight troughing right in there, but that's not going to be strong enough to pull this system off towards the north. It is acting on that wind shear though at this time, but as that moves off towards the northeast, it likely is going to give way and allow the system to develop. So therefore, at first, this is going to be slowly to develop, but JTWC, the Joint Typhoon Warning out of Pearl Harbor, does expect this to intensify up to a typhoon status. I do want to strongly note though, this is their first warning on it and does have the potential to change greatly out here in the forecast period, but as for now though, they are expecting the track along the southern periphery of that subtropical ridge I already mentioned and intensify up to a max of 90 knots here on the 2nd and possibly moving north of Luzon here. But look at this overall cone extending from Taiwan here all the way down towards Visayas. You could see this track waver in either direction, and even parts of Okinawa would not count you out of the woods just yet with this tropical depression. Also, I do want to note the intensity could change as well, since this is the first look at this storm and it could be a no starter. So we want to continue to watch this, see if that shear has much of an effect on it as possibly we could see, or if it has more of an effect and kills it before it even gets going. But these are all factors that will definitely take place over the next 24 hours. So by tomorrow, we will have a better grasp on this system and how it is going to develop and if it possibly will affect you there in the Philippines. But elsewhere out here in the Western Pacific, we did have a stationary boundary over Japan today. It did move offshore, giving way to high pressure. So all of you Japanese viewers, you're seeing much more beautiful weather today. This is expected to maintain throughout the rest of the week as another area of low pressure is moving off of China. Going to be bringing some rain showers in by the weekend. So continuing to watch that as well. But that is all for right now, everyone. Thanks again for watching here at westernpacificweather.com. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, as always, post them in the comment box below. And also, could you please post any reports you have from the storms out here, and if you have taken any pictures or videos as well, I'd very much like to share them here as well. So thanks again for watching, everybody. Have a great day, and please continue to stay safe.